Oakwood Cemetery is one of the more well-known places we'll visit in this series. A lot of people are familiar with this one, but I personally think it's the most grand and picturesque of all the cemeteries in North Carolina. There are some very prominent historical figures buried here, but as a quiet place to get away and take in some natural beauty and history, Oakwood stands apart. If you live in the Triangle area and have never been to Oakwood, you have to swing by sometime. The Oakwood Historic District is one of Raleigh's most beautiful, and the cemetery here is just stunning at all times of year, particularly spring. It's a private, non-profit independent cemetery, but Oakwood welcomes all visitors, regardless of race, religion, or national origin, 7 days a week. The 102-acre site has parking, a public restroom open during business hours, and a visitor's center. There are just over 3 miles of paved roads within these gates. Plenty of room to wander and take in. Regardless of your religious views, there's something that feels sacred about this place. It manages to create quiet beauty among loss and discomfort. Among the more than 22,000 men and women buried here are no less than 7 North Carolina governors, 6 U.S. congressmen, 5 U.S. senators, and 4 Confederate Army generals. Jim Valvano, beloved coach of the North Carolina State Championship winning basketball team of 1983, was laid to rest here after a public struggle with cancer that finally took his life 10 years later.
Think about it. If you laugh, you think, and you cry, that's a full day. That's a heck of a day.
He's still considered a hero in Raleigh.
You do that 7 days a week, you're going to have something special.
Elizabeth Edwards, wife of U.S. Senator and 2004 vice presidential candidate John Edwards, is buried next to her son. There are polarizing figures here, such as Josephus Daniels, who was the editor of the Raleigh News and Observer, who worked to end Southern poverty but also fanned the flames of racism and stoked outrage that led to the Wilmington Massacre of 1898. There's also Jesse Helms, a U.S. senator who notoriously opposed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, among others, and vocally discriminated against gay and lesbian Americans. The site has a long history, going all the way back to 1869, just a few years after the Civil War. The Mordecais family is well known to Raleigh residents, and they played a key role in the formation of the cemetery. The Mordecais can trace their roots back to the original Jewish settlers in America, and theirs was one of the first 300 Jewish families in the colonies. Skip ahead a few generations. Moses Mordecai, a prominent lawyer and later judge, had married Margaret Lane, granddaughter of Joel Lane, the man considered to be the father of Raleigh and Wake County. The Lanes were Episcopalian, and Moses converted to Christianity, which is possibly why he started pronouncing the family name as Mordecai, which sounded less Jewish. This slave-owning family gave and sold portions of their former plantation to become what is now this incredible place in Raleigh. Moses' son, Henry, donated land for the creation of 2 special sites, the Hebrew Cemetery and the Confederate Cemetery. The 2.5 acres of the Confederate Cemetery contain the remains of nearly 1,400 soldiers and officers, many of whom were interred and moved their initial burial sites around Wake County and around the nation, 1/10 of them from Gettysburg. There's also 2 Union troops buried here. Many people may feel a sense of overwhelming loss when they visit a cemetery, especially one as large and grand as this one. But wandering all the way to the very back of the cemetery, I was struck by a noticeable presence of life at the more modern grave sites. Yes, all these markers represent lives lost, some of them much too early. But the memories preserved by those who survived them are amazing. This is where you can glimpse the personalities of those resting here, and you can feel the impact they had and still have on those who remember them.